2:14 hours, North Atlantic, mid-1943. In the control room, the U-boat commander watches a stopwatch and a greased pencil mark on a paper chart. He is not looking for glory. He is looking for geometry. If you want more cold, systems first war-to-do breakdowns like this, subscribe and stay with us. These are stories where math and procedure decide who comes home. The captain's rank matters less than his workstation. It's a cramped box of steel under pressure, where decisions are converted into angles, depth settings, and switch positions. The men around him speak in clipped phrases. They don't waste oxygen. They don't waste seconds. Outside, the ocean has no interest in ideology or courage. It only offers drag, density, and noise. Tonight, the boat is set up for a clean attack. The assumptions are tidy. A convoy track is predicted from radio bearing. A rendezvous point is penciled in by dead reckoning. The periscope is checked. The torpedo data computer is warmed. The gyro angle is supposed to do one job: turn the torpedo's nose so it runs to the intersection point. It's a simple promise: fire, turn, run, strike. But the promise depends on one invisible variable that does not negotiate. The boat is already late by minutes. Late means range grows. Range means the target's angular movement shrinks. Shrinking angles make small errors lethal. A 2-degree mistake is tolerable at a kilometer. It becomes catastrophic when the geometry stretches. The captain understands. He likely feels it in the way the crew shifts their weight when the hydrophone operator reports faint screws, not strong ones. Faint means far. Far means time. And time means the convoy's escorts. The captain wants a shot from ahead of the convoy. An attack where the torpedoes run across the target's track. It's the favored geometry because speed and bearing changes show up cleanly in the math. A stern shot is messy. A beam shot is pure. Pure math is safer. Safer, in a war like this, is still lethal. The navigator holds a chart on his knee, paper already damp from breath and sweat. The chief engineer watches gauges that don't forgive optimism. Battery percentage is a hard ceiling. Oxygen is a soft limit. The radio is mostly silent because transmissions are admissions of presence. The captain carries all of it at once. A commander is a single point where he gives the order to rig for silent running. In the boat, silence is not absence of sound. It's controlled sound. It's the deliberate suppression of careless noise. The men avoid metal-on-metal contacts. Valves are eased, not snapped. Tools are not set down. They are placed. Even the way you breathe becomes procedure, because the enemy is not a ship. The enemy is a listening system. Escorts sweep with sonar, operators interpret pings and echoes, their plotting tables convert sound into bearings and ranges. Their commanders convert bearings into depth charge patterns. Every step is a chain, and the chain only needs one consistent link. The U-boat's counterchain is to be smaller than the problem, to be quiet enough that the escort's operator sees nothing worth turning toward, to be disciplined enough that the ocean's own noise masks the steel cylinder. The hydrophone operator tilts his head, listening to the sea through wire and membrane. A pencil scratches on a notepad. He reports multiple propellers, likely merchant ships, with escorts weaving. The captain wants a count, but count is a luxury. What he really needs is the convoy's course and speed. Speed is the spine of the solution. Course is the direction of death. He orders a brief periscope observation. The periscope rises with a controlled hiss, not dramatic, mechanical. A small motion in the tower becomes a tall tube in the ocean, and a tall tube becomes a bright line for an alert lookout. The captain looks. The sky is low and dark, the horizon smeared. He sees silhouettes. Merchant hulls riding heavy, bows pushing white water. Somewhere among them are tankers or cargo ships that can feed an entire front. Steel and fuel. Ammunition and grain. Cargo that turns into aircraft trucks and shells after it reaches port. The target is not a ship. The target is throughput. He drops the periscope. Now the control room becomes a math lab under pressure. The torpedo officer calls out inputs: bearing, range estimate, target angle on the bow, estimated speed. The captain listens and decides whether the numbers deserve belief. In this war, the most dangerous thing is trusting a number you didn't earn. They are using the torpedo data computer, a mechanical analog calculator. Gears and cams translate angles into solutions. It is brilliant engineering, and it is indifferent engineering. It does not know if the periscope lens is fogged. It does not know if the target changed speed. It only knows what you tell it. The captain chooses a spread. One torpedo is a question. A spread is an argument. He chooses six. 6 torpedoes is an expensive sentence. Each one is a crafted object of compressed air, precision gyros, warhead filler, and factory labor. Each one represents transport capacity, copper, explosives, machining time, and testing. 6 is also a doctrinal choice. It implies he believes he has the angle, but not the certainty. It implies he wants to saturate an escort's reaction time. It implies he expects at least one dud, one early detonation, one miss. And it implies he cannot linger. He orders tubes flood. Water fills the muzzle doors. Pressure equalizes. The boat's trim shifts. Men watch bubble levels and incline. Every kilogram that moves changes depth. Depth changes periscope. Periscope use changes risk. The procedure is a tight loop of cause and consequence. The torpedoes sit in their tubes like loaded pistons. Inside each, a gyroscope waits. The gyro is a tiny dictator. It will hold a course relative to the torpedo's body. The weapon is not fired straight at the ship. It is fired at a computed point, and the gyro angle turns it toward the intercept. That turn is everything. A correct gyro angle means the torpedo bends onto the right track, then runs true. A wrong gyro angle means it runs wide, and wide means wasted. Or worse. Because there is a third outcome the crew doesn't say out loud. A torpedo that turns too far can end up describing a circle. And a circle in the ocean is not just a mistake. It's a boomerang. The captain's plan assumes the weapons will run outward, away from the boat. The escort problem is already hard enough. He has calculated for the enemy to react to explosions ahead of them, to chase the disturbance forward, not backward. He has assumed the geometry will protect him. Then the hidden variable enters, quietly, like a misread dial. It can enter through a unit conversion, degrees versus mils, port versus starboard, a sign error in the calculator, a misset lever on the angle set, a rushed correction because the target bearing drifted while the periscope was up, a human hand turning a knob 2 marks too far in dim red light. In a submarine control room, most catastrophic errors do not look dramatic. They look like a normal motion executed with confidence. The torpedo officer announces the gyro angle values. The captain hears them, and he likely feels they are plausible. Plausible is not proof, but they are running out of the only currency that matters. The convoy is moved. Every minute shifts the solution. Bearings change. The angle on the bow changes. The computed intercept point slides like a... He approves the firing solution. The boat steadies. The captain counts seconds in his head against the watch. Fire 1. Compressed air slams the first weapon out of its tube. The hull shudders. The sound is blunt and short, like a door being kicked. A pressure wave travels through steel. Men feel it in their teeth. Fire 2. Another lurch. Another depart. Fire 3. Then 4, 5, 6. The sequence is procedural, but the stakes are not. 6 torpedoes are now running in the ocean, each with an internal gyro trying to obey its set angle. Each torpedo is an autonomous machine. Once launched, it will not reconsider. The captain orders the boat down, deeper, to clear the surface layer and reduce detection. He expects to hear detonations in tens of seconds, maybe a few minutes depending on range. He expects chaos among the merchants. He expects escorts to accelerate, turning their bows toward the blast patterns. He expects the ocean to become a hunting ground, and he expects his boat to already be leaving. In the first moments after firing, there is a special kind of tension, not fear yet, anticipation. The crew listens for impact. The hydrophone operator is the first to translate the outside world into truth. He listens. Nothing. No detonation, no breaking hull plates, no secondary explosions. Silence becomes a number. The longer it lasts, the worse the math looks. The captain asks for... The operator reports the convoy still moving, still noisy, still alive. Escorts are still weaving. That means the convoy doesn't yet know it was attacked, or the torpedoes missed entirely, or the impacts failed to detonate. And then a new sound appears. It's not the convoy. It's not an escort turning hard. It's something else. A steady, fast propeller sound, closer than it should be. The operator hesitates, then gives the only answer that fits the pattern. A torpedo. A torpedo running close. Now the control room stops being a weapons room and becomes an engineering crisis room. A torpedo should be leaving them, not approaching. A torpedo sound coming toward the boat suggests one of the worst mechanical failures in submarine warfare. A circular run. It's called a circle runner for a reason. The weapon's guidance has failed or been set wrong, and the gyro is now holding a constant turn rather than a constant heading. The torpedo becomes a compass needle stuck in a rotating frame. The rudder deflects. The weapon arcs. The arcs close. The weapon loops. The hidden variable is no longer abstract. It is a machine in the water that has become a hazard to its own side. To understand how this happens, you have to strip away the drama and stay with the mechanism. A torpedo with a gyro angle set too far can demand a turn beyond what its control system was designed to stabilize. If the steering gear or gyro feedback does not return the rudder to center properly, the weapon can keep turning. If the gyro itself is misaligned or its reference frame is wrong, the torpedo's idea of straight becomes curved. In practical terms, the torpedo acts like a vehicle with the steering wheel locked. At speed, it will carve a circle. The radius depends on speed and rudder angle. A fast torpedo at several dozen knots can circle with a radius on the order of hundreds of meters, sometimes more. That means it can return to its launch area within minutes. Minutes are an eternity and a heartbeat at once. The captain likely realizes the timetable immediately. He doesn't need exact numbers. He needs direction. If a torpedo is circling, it will cross their vicinity periodically. If they stay at the same depth and course, they are presenting the torpedo with the same relative geometry each pass. That is the worst thing you can do with a looping machine. He orders an emergency turn and depth change. But submarines do not pivot. They are long cylinders with inertia. At depth, changing depth requires control surfaces and trim, which require water movement and pump work. Noise rises. Noise makes them visible to sonar. The system punishes every move. The hydrophone operator calls the torpedo's bearing again. It's closer. The pitch of the propeller is higher in the headphones, sharper, more. The crew now hears what the captain cannot see. A steel fish, running under its own power, is moving in their direction with intent that was never intended. The captain orders hard rudder and a descent. The boat angles down. The deck tilts. Loose items become hazards. Men brace with knees against bulkheads. Gouges jitter. This is where timing becomes cruel. If the torpedo is running shallow, diving might save them. If the torpedo is running deep, diving puts them into its path. They can only infer, and inference is slow. The torpedo officer may suggest blowing ballast or changing speed. Each option has a price. Blowing ballast creates a roar and bubble trail. Speed creates cavitation and machinery noise. Silence keeps. The captain chooses a compromise that is not heroic but rational. He increases speed slightly, just enough to turn with authority, not enough to scream through the water. He aims to break the pattern. He wants the torpedo circle to pass where they were, not where they are going. The hydrophone operator calls out the bearing rate. The sound is moving across their arc. That means the torpedo is passing to one side. Then it swings back because a circle comes around again. The first pass the second pass is the real danger. The torpedo is not hunting them intelligently. It is simply looping. But if its loop intersects with the submarine's motion, the outcome is identical to a deliberate attack. A collision at that speed does not require a perfect hit. It only requires proximity. Warheads detonate on contact or magnetic influence depending on design and settings. Even if the detonator fails, a torpedo slamming into a pressure hull is a catastrophic impact. The captain orders another course change. This is the fight now. Not man versus man, but man trying to outmaneuver a flawed algorithm. The convoy is still out there. The original mission is dissolving. The boat's position relative to the enemy. The captain is not thinking about tonnage anymore. He is thinking about survival and the integrity of his own procedures. This is the part that makes the title's claim feel so brutal. 6 torpedoes fired, and the most immediate threat is one of those torpedoes returning like a receipt. A gyro angle error is not a poetic mistake. It is a procedural failure. And in submarine warfare, procedure is a weapon. The captain likely reviews the steps in his mind like a checklist after an accident. Did the torpedo angle setter match the computed solution? Were the correct tubes assigned the correct angles? Did anyone transpose values? Was there a last-second adjustment and an old value left in a dial? Did stress compress the verification step? Verification is the thin wall between calculation and catastrophe. The hydrophone operator announces the torpedo again, closer and crossing faster. The sound becomes a thick, urgent buzz. Men who have heard enemy torpedoes know this signature. A torpedo is a moving machine. Its propellers make a very specific rhythm in water, and the rhythm becomes intimate when it is near. The captain orders, "All stop for a moment." It sounds counterintuitive, but it's system logic. By stopping, he reduces his own noise so the hydrophone can locate the torpedo more precisely. It also changes the relative motion between the boat and the looping. If the torpedo's circle is fixed relative to the water mass, changing the submarine's velocity changes when and where the intercept occurs. They are trying to solve a moving geometry problem with incomplete data. For a few seconds, the boat is nearly still, drifting at depth. The hull creaks with pressure. A drop of condensation falls from a pipe and sounds like a hammer in the silence. The hydrophone operator calls out the bearing. It is now moving away. The torpedo has passed again. But the ocean doesn't confirm safety. It only delays disaster. If it is truly circling, it will return on a predictable interval. The interval depends on the circle size and the torpedo speed. If it makes a loop in, say, 2 to 4 minutes, then they have a repeating danger window every few minutes. That's a metronome of death. The captain decides to break contact completely. He will abandon the attack. He will go deep, change course repeatedly, and leave the torpedo's loop behind. He is treating the ocean like a map with a contaminated zone. The contaminated zone is not a minefield laid by the enemy. It is his own weapon's footprint. He orders a deeper depth, within safe limits. Depth is another hard number. Too shallow and sonar sees you. Too deep and the hull becomes a test specimen. A submarine has a designed crush depth and an operating depth. He chooses a depth that buys acoustic cover without gambling the hull. As the boat descends, the water pressure increases. The hull groans. The crew hears the metal talk. Rivets and welds make their own language. It is not dramatic. It is constant. It's the physics of being a vessel where humans do not. The hydrophone operator continues to listen. The torpedo sound fades. Then, faint again, it appears, distant, and then fades once more. That suggests the torpedo is still running, still looping, but its circle is no longer centered on them. The captain has, for the moment, stepped outside the orbit of his own mistake. But the story is not finished, because systems don't just kill directly, they also leave evidence. A circular runner can betray the boat's location. Escorts might hear the torpedo's propellers and track it backward by inference. A torpedo in the water is a disturbance. A disturbance changes escort behavior. If escorts detect a torpedo run, they tighten their screen, slow their merchants, and begin systematic searches. The U-boat's opportunity collapses, and it collapses because of noise and timing, not because of heroics. Even if no one hits anything, the attack has consequences. The captain listens for sonar pings. He hears them soon after. A distant, mechanical pulse. Not constant yet, but escorts have reacted to something. Perhaps they saw a torpedo wake. Perhaps they heard it. Perhaps the convoy changed course slightly and an escort is probing. The captain orders full silent running again. He cuts speed. He reduces everything that makes the boat speak. Now the crew is trapped in a slow equation. How long can they stay submerged? What is the battery state? How much oxygen remains? How long until the escorts decide to leave? How accurate is the enemy's last fix? These questions are logistics in miniature. The submarine is an industrial artifact with endurance limits. It is a battery-powered tube. The captain knows that if the escorts commit to it, the escort commander does not need to be brilliant. He needs to be methodic. A set of expanding squares, a coordinated sweep, a sonar operator who doesn't get bored. Systems beat individuals by being tireless. The U-boat crew waits. Minutes stretch. The sonar pings come and go, growing louder, then fading. That suggests an escort is passing nearby. Scanning. The boat holds depth and does not move. The captain understands the physics. Moving targets create Doppler effects and noise. Still, targets are harder to separate from sea clutter. Stillness becomes a tactic, but stillness has a cost. It drains time, and time drains air, and air drains clarity. Inside the hull, sweat beads. Breath feels heavy. Men whisper with their lips barely moving. A valve wheel is held so it cannot rattle. The chief engineer watches battery draw like a banker watching withdrawals during a panic. Then the pings fade further. The escort is moving away. The captain does not settle. He waits for the second pass, because escorts do loops too. Another series of pings arrives, closer, then fades again. It is not a direct attack. No depth charges yet. No explosions, but each pass is a reminder. The enemy is not guessing. The enemy is scanning. The captain likely thinks about the torpedo again. If it circled long enough, it may have run out of fuel and sunk, or it may have detonated at the end of its run, depending on its design and settings. Some torpedoes self-destruct to avoid capture. If so, an explosion could have been heard, sending escorts into alert. If it did not detonate, it might be recovered later, and recovery would be intelligence. Intelligence is also industrial. Captured torpedoes get studied, warhead explosives get sampled, guidance gets examined, manufacturing tolerances get measured. The enemy learns what you build. A single malfunction can become a data point in a research lab. After a long wait, the convoy noise diminishes. The screws fade into the background. That means distance. That means the attack window is gone. The captain has lost his chance at tonnage tonight. He has also avoided a death that would have looked, on paper, absurd. A submarine destroyed by its own torpedo is not a romantic ending. It is an engineering failure reaching its logical conclusion. The captain orders a slow return to periscope depth later. When the water seems quieter, he will check the horizon, reorient, and decide where to go next. The war does not stop because a plan failed. The patrol continues. The boat must return to its operational pattern. Battery management, air cycling, navigation, listening, waiting. But the crew will not forget what happened, because it attacks their confidence in the one thing they must trust: their own process. A weapon is only as reliable as the chain that prepares it. That chain includes factories and inspectors, transport and storage, maintenance and training, and the final setting in the tube. The gyro angle error, however it occurred, is a crack in that chain, and cracks expand under pressure. To make the mechanism plain, imagine the intercept problem the captain tried to solve. A convoy ship might be moving at a steady speed, maybe single digits to low teens knots for a merchant in wartime formation. A torpedo is faster, but not infinitely faster. If a torpedo runs at several dozen knots, it still takes time to cover a few thousand meters. During that run, the target moves too. The torpedo must be aimed not at where the ship is, but where it will be. That future point is computed using angles and relative speed. The gyro angle is the torpedo's instruction on how to align itself after launch. If the set angle is off, the torpedo's path shifts. A small angular mistake becomes a large lateral miss over distance, and if the angle forces the torpedo into a sustained turn, the path becomes a loop. The enemy does not need to outfight you if you can be made to fight your own math. By the end of the patrol, the captain will likely insist on stricter cross-checks. Not because he is embarrassed, but because he has seen the cost. He may require 2 men to verify gyro angles out loud before firing. He may slow the firing sequence slightly to ensure each tube's setting matches the solution. He may accept fewer shots rather than risk another circular runner. That is the industrial logic of survival. Not bravery, not slogans, procedure. Because in this environment, courage without correctness is just another way to die. And this is the verdict the ocean delivers every night. The dominant force is not hatred or heroism. It is the system that turns intention into action. Inputs become outputs. Errors become consequences. The metal does not care who deserved what. The captain began this attack believing he controlled the variables: bearing, speed, range, timing, a clean plan supported by a trusted machine. He ended it being hunted by his own weapon's flawed geometry. 6 torpedoes left the tubes. One wrong gyro angle turned the ocean into a looping trap. The convoy escaped. The escorts searched. The boat survived, not by daring, but by disciplined corrections and restraint. That's how submarines really die and live. Not in speeches, in calibration. If you want more forensic water flu stories where a hidden variable flips the outcome, like and subscribe. And tell us in the comments, which hidden variable should we cover next? And where are you watching from?